orang ramai, orang awam, tak kira lah di seluruh dunia, boleh suara dengan pandangan ataupun pendapat. Okey, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okey, baik. Hari ini saya bersama dengan kawan saya.
Ya, Fizo Husin.
Okay. Jangan lupa subscribe dia punya.
Okay, subscribe. Welcome to our channel. Okay.
Okay. Hari ini kita nak panggil
kita buat reaction
tentang apa?
Tentang top 15 mistake in lockout in Malaysia.
Dia ada seorang
video by Al Jazeera lah. Sebab sebelum ni kalau kita lihat Al Jazeera kan pernah post dia punya video kaitan dengan Malaysia ni, lockout in Malaysia. Jadi banyak isu-isu yang dikeluarkan oleh Al Jazeera lah. Jadi isu hangat lah untuk kata bukan sahaja di Malaysia tapi untuk serata dunia lah, banyak buat tentang video Al Jazeera ni.
Ada seorang ni macam orang panggil apa dia? Mak Saleh. Okey, orang putih dia buat tentang Malaysia. Okey, dia ceritakan ada 15 kesalahan yang media Al Jazeera ceritakan tentang Malaysia. Jadi okey, hari ni kita sama-sama nak reaction. Okey, boleh play dulu.
This is a recent video that was published, and unfortunately, it has so many mistakes. And so we're going to pick the top 15 to cover today. Number 15, taking videos and footages of police and military.
I've got my ID. Look, this is my ID. I'm from the press. Again,
Please, lockdown area. No camera, please.
but we're within our rights to report from here.
Oh, good. But please lockdown area.
Throughout the entire world, you really can't be taking footage of police and military. So many countries that's illegal. Even in the United States, if you took video footage of the security around the White House, that could get you thrown in jail. Well, Al Jazeera thinks that because they're reporters, they're above everybody else. Number 14, complaining that they weren't allowed into high-risk areas of COVID-19.
We're not allowed inside these fenced-off areas.
Now, I don't know if they don't realize how COVID-19 works. It spreads pretty easily. And so if they were able to go into an area that was high risk, they could easily pick up COVID-19, especially when you look at the video footage and realize that lots of times they weren't wearing a mask, or they only were wearing a mask. I mean, look at how many doctors who were completely prepared, had tons of protection, picked up COVID-19. Number 13, blocking.
Kalau tengok balik kan untuk yang nombor 14 tadi kan, nampak sangat Al Jazeera ni sebenarnya dia tak sedar tau. Bila dia nak buat sesuatu rakaman, sepatutnya dia kena pakai mask, tapi itu memang nampak kesalahan dia. Sebab sekarang dia pergi tempat orang yang macam penuh dengan, kita tak tahulah red zone, tapi dia tak jaga dengan SOP dia. Lepas tu dia siap ganggu, rakam lagi polis buat kerja. Di sini memang dia kata memang antara kesalahan yang dibuat oleh Al Jazeera ni sendiri.
Comments. You need to always allow comments, but in this video they've blocked all comments on YouTube. You need to allow people to be able to point out when you don't do things that are accurate or when you do things really biased. But if you
Yang ni pun memang kita pun pelik. Sedangkan Al Jazeera pun boleh kata satu media, satu stesen media yang antarabangsa kot. Takkannya boleh ditutup ruangan komen dalam YouTube. Sepatutnya tak perlu tutup sebab orang ramai, orang awam, tak kira lah di seluruh dunia, boleh suara dengan pandangan ataupun pendapat, tapi dia tutup ruangan komen. Itu macam seolah macam menunjukkan dia tu salah ataupun takut.
Sebelum ni pun saya dah tengok dia punya video Al Jazeera. Bila saya check situ memang dia block habis semua, no comment, tak ada komen. Nampak sangat dia ada suspicious kan. Ada suspicious, benda yang macam pelik lah. Dia nak buat video tapi dia tak bagi orang komen. Pelik di situ kan. Pelik bin ajaib.
don't allow comments, people can't point those out. And I just think as a reporter, it's so unprofessional to block comments. I really don't think YouTube should allow that. Number 12, complaining that the government never responded.
Several requests to interview the Senior Minister, Home Minister and his deputies were declined.
All right, Mr. Drew Ambrose. Well, the government's a little bit busy. They're fighting this thing called COVID-19, which is extremely deadly and spreads super easy. And sorry, they probably didn't have time to answer every single question you had because they're busy fighting the disease. So please, man, get off your high horse. Not everybody can take time out of their life to serve you. Right, dude? Like, have a reality check. Number 11, forgetting how racism works.
Is this the practical reality of dealing with a pandemic? Or is it racism?
Okay, if you're not aware, racism was mentioned multiple times in the video. How racism works is where you judge a group of people based on their skin color. And in this instance, it would be people of Indian descent or people that look Indian. And if you're not aware, there are multiple Malaysians, actually over 7% of Malaysians are of Indian descent. They look exactly like migrant workers that are both legal and illegal. So if the Malaysian government was racist, they would be targeting anybody that looked Indian, Bangladeshi, or Pakistani. But the Malaysian government specifically was doing things for illegal immigrants. And anyone that was of Indian descent that was Malaysian, they were fine. They had no complaints. So this is clearly not a racism issue. This is an illegal immigration issue. And those are different things. To call it racism is just completely wrong and out of place. Number 10, ignoring countries that are extremely racist towards their migrant workers. I've traveled all around the world and I have several friends that are migrant workers. And there are several places where I discovered that people were very racist towards migrant workers. And actually, in Malaysia, migrant workers are treated better than almost anywhere else in the world. Here, locals of a different country called...
Okay, kalau tengok di sini kan, sebenarnya yang laki ni, Mak Saleh ni, dia dah banyak travel lah. Travel mata dunia. Jadi, bila dia dah travel, jadi dia nampak tau. Banyakkan negara-negara luar, ada setengah negara yang terlampau resis berkaitan dengan imigran lah, workers ni. Sebab isu ni memang tak boleh nak kata apalah, mana-mana negara pun ada isu begini. Semua negara memang ada isu imigran, sama ada illegal ataupun legal. Maksudnya parti ataupun yang secara sah lah dengan dokumen. Jadi isu ni memang dah lama dah, bertahun-tahun semua negara menghadapi benda yang sama. Jadi bila dia sebut ambil Al Jazeera ni seolah-olah macam menyalahkan Malaysia tentang isu ni. Jadi dia kata dia pernah pergi luar negara kan, banyak tempat. Jadi
ni dah banyak merantau.
Dia tahulah negara mana yang terlampau resis. Tapi dia tak beritahu lah Malaysia bukan salah satu negara yang
legal migrant workers, lazy, messy, unhygienic. Number 9, treating illegal migrant workers like they're all victims. Illegal migrant workers have specifically not obeyed the law and are working illegally. Even in your own video, you have a human rights lawyer, somebody that really supports undocumented and illegal migrant workers. And she points out that this illegal migrant worker didn't do anything and that she can't really support him because he put in no effort to try to be legal.
Okay, did he attempt to...
dia masuk kat sini, dia kata kalau betul lah kan diorang ni tak ada dokumen ataupun visa pun dah tamat, kenapa diorang tak ada usaha nak renew balik dia punya visa? Betul. Kan? Dia kata sekurang-kurang ni kena ada usaha. Ini bila tak boleh diorang banyakkan lari, menyorok, jadi nak mengelak daripada kena tangkap. Okay, kita tengok yang lawyer yang dia cakap.
Go to the Labour Department to file a case against his employer?
And throughout this video, you often show that they are victims when they could have just put in some effort to make sure that they obeyed the law and got a working visa. Number 8, saying the jobs that migrant workers are working, Malaysians don't want to work. And it's probably true. There are several jobs that Malaysians would prefer that migrant workers did. But in the video, you show how there used to be 60 jobs at the market that migrant workers worked. And when they set out applications, they had over 500 Malaysians apply for that job. So clearly, in this job, Malaysians wanted to work it, but their jobs were taken by migrant workers.
Mohammed ran a recruitment drive to replace the foreign workers with locals. 500 Malaysians applied for just 60 positions.
Number 7, never acknowledging that illegal migrant workers put the entire country at huge risk for COVID-19. See, illegal migrant workers are working illegally. It's in the name. And because they're working illegally, They're not registered. The government doesn't even know if they're probably in the country or where they live or who they work for, and there's no way to track them. And so with COVID, it's so important to track and trace everybody that gets COVID. For example, look at what China did and what Taiwan did and what South Korea did and Japan. All these countries that were extremely good at fighting COVID-19 were able to track everybody in their country and who had it and who didn't. But when you have 4 million illegal immigrants and there's no way to trace them, you're putting your entire country at huge risk. And putting this in the video is so important because then people can kind of understand why the Malaysian government might be trying to figure out who's illegal in Malaysia because it affects the safety of all Malaysians. Number 6.
Okay, sebab kalau tengok dia punya tu kan, apa dia punya penerangan memang betul. Sebab bila parti, diorang akan sembunyi. Jadi macam mana kerajaan nak jumpa track diorang ni, sedangkan kita rakyat Malaysia banyak kita guna aplikasi seperti macam kita ikut kerajaan Jepun buat, Taiwan buat, China buat kan. Kita guna aplikasi untuk menentukan kedudukan kita sebenar.
Contoh aplikasi kita apa?
My Sejahtera. Ya, betul. Jadi tu sebab kenapa penting yang benda ni. Bila jenis macam parti ni kan, dia bekerja tanpa dokumen dan dia nak elak daripada jumpa dengan pihak penguasa, dia terpaksa bersembunyi. Dia bersembunyi. Contohlah banyakkan kes ada yang lari sebab dia tu positif. Jadi bila dia lari dia akan menyebabkan COVID-19 tu tersebarlah dengan orang-orang tempatan yang keselamatan untuk rakyat Malaysia tu tak ada. Jadi
dia tahu dia tak ada dokumen yang besar, dia tak ada dokumen besar. Jadi dia lari, itu masalahnya. Bila dia lari, jadi andai kata dia masuk ke Malaysia, masa tu tengah kemuncak COVID, dia masuk Malaysia, lepas tu lari sebab dokumen tak sah. Masa tu lah dia menyebarkan virus. Ini
pernah ada kes lepas test tu, dia lari. Dia tengok-tengok positif. Jadi macam mana kita nak, keadaan akan jadi huru-hara lah.
Like sitting in the sun and getting questioned about if you're legally working in Malaysia is like the worst thing in the world.
He says his whole family, including his son and daughter, were handcuffed and chained together with other children and the elderly under the hot sun. They were only released hours later after authorities verified their documents.
Alright, right now COVID-19 is happening. There are so many children around the world that are losing parents to COVID-19 and are going to be raised without their father or mother. And you are upset that a daughter had to sit out in the sun? I mean, if this is the worst thing that happens in your COVID-19 experience, you are very blessed because so many people around the world would give anything to be able to sit out in the sun a few hours and know that their country is safe.
Okay, yang isu ni kan, sebenarnya yang dekat video yang diterangkan sini, ada yang satu orang video ni, tak silapnya Pakistan ke Bangladesh, lupa lah. Dia ni doktor sebenarnya. Jadi yang peliknya, dia kata anak dia kena gari kan, lepas tu kena duduk kat panas. Tu dia ada isu jugalah. Dia kata habis dekat negara dia tu dah biasa kan dengan panas-panas. Kenapa tiba datang Malaysia dia tak boleh tahan persoalkan dia duduk di tempat yang panas. Walhal dekat negara dia tu lagilah berjam-jam panasnya. Takkan dia tiba-tiba sejam dua je duduk dekat panas pun dia nak jadi isu. Macam seolah isu tu besar.
Itu pernah persoalkan kan? Kena biasa duduk panas ke?
Itu pasal. Itu yang memang geram juga lah. Mak Saleh tu pun geram juga lah bila tengok.
That everybody is going through a really hard time right now. It's not just the illegal migrant workers or the migrant workers. Malaysians as well are going through a hard time. So many Malaysians have lost their job. So many Malaysians are struggling right now. And to focus that the only people struggling are illegal migrant workers and migrant workers is unfair. Everybody is going through a hard time. Some people are being very misleading and not always honest. For example, handcuffing children. I really don't think this happened. Do you have any footage? Do you have any proof? Do you have anything more than one or two people saying it happened? And regardless, if children are handcuffed, I mean, it's not the end of the day. It doesn't hurt them. Oh, big deal. I mean, come on. I'm a dentist. I have to treat kids' teeth all the time. That's way worse and way more painful than getting handcuffed. But I do it because it's for the good of the kid overall. So just because something's inconvenient or unpleasant, not everybody lives in a fairy tale land, but regardless, I think that was pretty inaccurate. You also used multiple selective examples. You purposely picked stories and tried to show things that made Malaysia look bad. I mean, you look at the end of the video, you purposely pick a mother with a child. Come on, that was set up. You didn't pick a 50-year-old man, you picked a mother with a child. Many Malaysians, especially doctors and nurses.
Kalau tengok dia punya ni kan, dekat Al Jazeera punya video, kebanyakan dia dah set up tau cerita tu. Maksudnya seolah-olah dia cerita tu seolah-olah macam kerajaan Malaysia ni dia macam buruk lah, buruk di mata dia orang. Lagi-lagi yang illegal workers ni, immigrant ni, illegal immigrant workers.
Sedangkan kalau kita, contoh macam rakyat Malaysia kan, kita tahu kan, kita duduk di Malaysia, kita nampak kan pekerja-pekerja daripada warga asing okey je bekerja, tak ada masalah pun. Sedangkan
rakyat Malaysia yang bekerja kat luar negara pun dia orang ikut dokumen semua, tak ada masalah, dia kerja macam biasa, tak ada masalah.
Kalau masuk Malaysia dalam keadaan yang sah, dokumen yang lengkap, apa masalah, apa yang takut kan?
Apa pernah takut kan? Lepas tu kerajaan Malaysia pernah dah treat orang kata apa, immigrant workers kan, ada tempat khas untuk COVID-19, semua belanja, dah bagi makan lagi 3 kali sehari. Jadi kita yang rakyat Malaysia pun belum tentu dapat seperti mereka yang berada di sana tu. Betul. Di apa? Maps lah, yang mana? Yang Serdang. Maps di Serdang. Ada tak satu tempat untuk yang migrantnya tu kan? Dikumpul di situ. Tak apalah, bersyukurlah.
Have risked their lives treating COVID-19 positive patients that were illegal immigrants. These illegal immigrants got free care, free food, free clothing, free toiletries, and everything was provided to them. And this makes you wonder how many other things were inaccurate in this video. Number 3, mixing up legal and illegal migrant workers. Hey, listen to this.
And anti-immigration Facebook groups have been telling illegal migrants to go home.
Did you catch it? One word changes the entire structure of the sentence, and that's how media can be very misleading. He says anti-immigration Facebook group, but the page he's showing is an anti-illegal immigration Facebook group. And there's a big difference between anti-immigration and anti-illegal immigration.
Sebab yang ni memang isu besar lah, kesalahan yang ada pada Al Jazeera waktu tu lah. Sebab kesalahan paling besar adalah dia tak boleh bezakan page tu. Page tu sebenarnya anti immigrant. Maksudnya legal punya immigrant. Bukan kan? Anti illegal. Anti illegal immigrant. Tapi dia kata anti immigrant. Jadi ada dua benda yang berbeza kat situ, illegal dengan legal. Jadi dekat Facebook tu anti illegal, tapi yang dia bagi tahu anti legal immigrant. Jadi di situ kesalahan besar amat sangat. Misleading. Dia tu fitnah. Silap sikit tu bahaya aja.
So many foreigners are being locked up in Malaysia's lockdown.
Even in the intro summary, you gotta
awal dia
You're
salah.
not investigating foreigners, all foreigners. No, you're investigating illegal foreigners. You need to say the word illegal.
Fokus dia dekat illegal sebenarnya tau.
How you fight COVID-19.
Authorities have been carrying out military-style operations across the capital, Kuala Lumpur.
COVID-19 is a time where you need to be strict. You can't allow people moving all around. You need to be very, very strict, because if one person with COVID-19 moves and goes about, they can easily spread it to so many more people. And so COVID-19 is a time that you need to have a military-style lockdown, because that's the only thing that works. It worked in Taiwan, it worked in Hong Kong, it worked in China, it worked in South Korea, and it also worked in Malaysia. And in this video, you make it sound like a military-style lockdown is a bad thing. No, that is an amazingly good thing. And the USA and many other countries in the Americas have not done that, and look at the results. Wouldn't you rather have a little bit of a military-style lockdown and save thousands of lives? I think most people would be in favor of that. Number 1, never saying the good things about Malaysia. Malaysia is an incredible success story. I would recommend you check out this video or this video. Trust me, they're well done, and the person that made them is pretty cool. Anyway, regardless, Malaysia did such an amazing job. I mean, it was amazing to see how people from all different backgrounds, famous and average citizens, all came together for the good of Malaysia. And I think that's really important to talk about in this video when you're going to be talking about COVID-19. And that was completely ignored and completely wrong to ignore that in making this video. So those were my top 15 things that were mistakes in Malaysia's lockdown video. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. And don't worry, I will keep comments on. And on a personal note, I'm just really, I guess, disappointed that a major media source would basically make things that were very biased, very inaccurate, and not do the proper research, and not even really understand how COVID-19 works. Because many of the things that actually help prevent COVID-19, they said were wrong. And if you look at the data and results, obviously it's working in Malaysia and it's working in other Asian countries. And so at a time when people are really suffering and dying, you shouldn't be picking out because some people had to sit out in the sun or were uncomfortable. Let's look at the bigger results. Lives were saved. And if a few people had to be uncomfortable to save a few lives, I think it was definitely worth it.
Baik,
Jadi kita tengok tentang Mak Saleh ni. Sebenarnya kalau yang bagi mereka yang belum tahu lagi, Mak Saleh ni sebenarnya dia doktor gigi. Dia doktor gigi. Jadi dia dah banyak merantau ke mana-mana tempat kan. Jadi dia tengok semua dan dia tahu yang tentang Malaysia punya macam mana. Dia dapat sumber pula daripada ada seorang kawan dia tu.
Mungkin tak silap orang Malaysia juga lah. Tu dia dapat footage yang di kawasan Malaysia ni. Sebenarnya dia bukan berada dekat Malaysia, tapi video dia memang interesting lah. Banyak ada sebelum ni video yang saya tertarik lah, yang berkaitan di cerita tentang apa Malaysia
apa Malaysia buat, apa macam dah berjaya menangani COVID.
Itulah bila saya tengok yang bahagian Al Jazeera punya video tu kan, memang teruk. Memang nampak sangat awal-awal pun dah nampak yang Malaysia tu teruk. Boleh dia statement dia macam seolah kata Malaysia ni macam dia guna style military lah, kawasan ni berbahaya lah, macam seolah-olah nak menunjukkan yang Malaysia tu buruk di mata dunia.
Dia nampak macam sengaja nak memburuk-burukkan Malaysia. Sengaja mencari keburukan. Senang cerita kalau media ni kalau bagi tajuk besar keburukan Malaysia menangani COVID-19. Nampak sangat.
Lagi-lagi isu dia kaitkan dengan illegal immigrant pula. Tu sepatutnya dia kata tadi, sepatutnya kalau betul dia nak fokus dekat illegal, sepatutnya dia kena tajuk tu biarlah illegal immigrant. Bukan dia cerita tentang seolah-olah dicampur adukkan yang illegal dengan legal. Jadi mereka pun ada hak masing-masing nak berjalan dekat atas tanah Malaysia ni. Padahal hal yang tanpa dokumen, mana boleh, kalau pergi mana-mana negara pun akan dikenakan tindakan. Lagi satu memang disebut dalam akta, mana-mana pun akta dekat seluruh dunia, kalau pekerja tanpa dokumen dia dikategorikan sebagai pesalah. Pesalah. Dia memang bukan pembunuh, memang dia sebut dalam video tu kami bukan pembunuh lah kan. Tapi tetap dia buat kesalahan sebab dia melanggar peraturan untuk setiap negara. Jadi memang tetap bersalah lah. Itu sebab, tapi kalau betul dia tak bersalah, kenapa dia menyuruh? Kan?
Jadi memang dia tak sah. Jadi itu sahaja kami punya reaksi tentang video ni. Ada apa-apa cadangan, komen, boleh tinggalkan di ruangan komen di bawah. Jadi jangan lupa subscribe, like and share this video.
Ya, betul.
Jumpa lagi pada video-video akan datang. Baik, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.